in the Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez shooting trial 2 years after Megan Thee Stallion said that.
To our cover story, Megan Thee Stallion taking the stand. The Grammy winner giving emotional testimony in the assault trial against the rapper accused of shooting her.
Is on day 4 of her ex Tory Lanez shooting trial.
This has fueled debates among hip-hop fans for 2 years now. Music artist Tory Lanez is accused of shooting rapper Megan Thee Stallion, and while some of the case has already played out.
Singer Megan Thee Stallion was all business as she arrived to testify in an LA courtroom today.
How do you feel today, Megan? Great.
The 27-year-old Grammy Award winner looked polished in a bright purple pantsuit.
You look great.
Megan is a key witness for the prosecution in the trial of a rapper named TORY Lanez, who's charged with shooting her twice in the foot 2 years ago. It happened after Megan and her friends left a pool party at Kylie Jenner's house. Megan spoke with CBS Morning's Gayle King about what happened next.
So I get out the car and it's like everything happens so fast. And all I hear is this man screaming, he said, dance, and he started shooting. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Were you afraid for your life at that time?
I was really scared because I had never been shot at before.
Prosecutors claim text messages Lanez sent to Megan are evidence he's guilty. I genuinely want you to know I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart, and I was just too drunk. Should have never happened, and I can't change what I did. George McDecian is Lanez's lawyer.
What do you make of all of this attention given Megan Thee Stallion's testimony today?
That's fine. We'll do our job and show credibility of Megan today.
Is it your position that somebody else shot her?
Yes.
Megan was in tears when she took the stand. She said Lanez told her he was on probation and said, "Don't say anything and I'll give you $1 million." Outside the courthouse, fans rallied to show their support, holding up a "We Stand With Megan" banner.
What is your reason for being here to support Megan?
I believe black women when they say that harm has happened to them, and I think it is important for us to stand behind them.
The Urban Binge Radio Podcast,
where we discuss viral topics, hot jams, new artists, fun, and informative interviews and conversations. This is your news stop for the hottest trend in urban culture news. 2 shows, 1 podcast, The Urban Binge Show and Sunday Flow Show powered by The Urban Binge.
The Urban Binge Radio Podcast. Listen anywhere podcast can be heard. This is the Urban Binge Radio.
How you feeling today, Megan? How you feeling today, Megan? Love you, Megan. Open it up. Stay strong, Megan. Megan, you're real. Megan, how you feeling? You look great.
Yeah. That way. If it doesn't fit, you must have quit.
Yo, chill. He's got the baby. Chill out. Everybody back up.
Yeah, little man.
He's got the baby. Open it up. Have some respect, yo. Hey, have some respect. That was a good call, man. $100 bill, boy. Yeah, you're doing right. Show me.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by 2 separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
We had opening statements. Opening statements are still actually going. We had to pause midway through for lunch. Better than TV. If you watch the prosecution's opening statement, you would say guilty. If you then watch the defense's opening statement, you would say, what the hell is the prosecution thinking charging him? Basically, the prosecution started with this story. They said that, hey, they're all at the party, and Tory is leaving the party with Meg. They're in the car. An argument breaks out, during which Meg says and insults his skills as a rap artist. This leads to a situation where she gets out of the car and he shoots at her feet and yells, "Dance, bitch." And then she ends up at a hospital and a doctor takes out 3 fragments of bullet wounds from her foot. Now, if you just hear, and the prosecution says that Kelsey, the other woman in the car, is going to testify that Tory shot. And Kelsey has a text message where she texts somebody that, hey, Tory shot Meg. And then the rest of the prosecution's case is based on all these calls and texts where Tory's like, oh, I'm so sorry, oh, I'm so drunk. He never says that I shot him. He's like, oh, I'm just so sorry, I'm so drunk. So question what he's apologizing for. So that's the prosecution's case. Seems pretty easy. Then the defense comes up, and man, it gets spicy. First, the defense goes, they're not telling you about half of what's going on. The most important thing they're not telling you about an eyewitness who saw 2 women fighting, Kelsey and Meg. And so let's talk about why them 2 are fighting. Let's talk about how she was in the front seat. The gun was caught in the front seat. Let's talk about how she might have gunpowder. She does have gunpowder. Let's talk about how this has nothing to do with the fight between Tory and Meg and everything to do with the fight between Meg and Kelsey. And then the defense starts dropping the bombs. He basically says this, that they're in the car. Yeah, they left, but you know, because Kylie and Tory were in the pool together. And Kelsey and Meg both felt some type of way about that, to the point that Meg felt really some type of way about that. And she was really trying to go, to the point that eventually, because of how Meg is acting, this is according to the defense, Kylie Jenner goes to Meg Thee Stallion and says, it's time for you to leave. They all leave. The defense's point is what happens in the car is this. Tory questions Kelsey, hey Kelsey, why are you backing up Meg for me trying to, get it on with Kylie Jenner? Meg has been snaking men from you your whole life. I hooked up with you, Kelsey, and then Meg went behind your back and hooked up with me. And Kelsey, this is not the first time. You had been hooking up with Ben Simmons. Meg went behind your back and hooked up with Ben Simmons. You had been hooking up with DaBaby. Meg went behind your back and hooked up with DaBaby. And so the defense starts dropping all these grenades. The crowd is captivated. The jury's like, oh, what's going on? And there's every reason that there could have been a fight here, not between Tory and Meg, but between Meg and Kelsey. And the shooting could have not been Tory. It could have been done by any one of the other people in that car. What does all of this mean? Well, I'll tell you a couple things. First, Corey Gamble, Kris Jenner's husband, is going to testify, so this will continue to be must-see TV. 2, the judge is terrific. I expect a very fair trial. The lawyers on the defense side are terrific. I don't know what the government lawyer was doing, giving an opening presentation that made it seem like the most open and shut case ever, when in fact there are huge questions, including an eyewitness who saw 2 women fighting, suggesting that you have to explain that theory to the jury, and you didn't. I don't love the prosecution's opening in that regard. Stay tuned. We'll have the full coverage here. It's up and it's stuck in the Tory Lanez trial.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by 2 separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
2 of the Tory Lanez trial is underway. It started with Meg Thee Stallion testifying. I'm going to take you through what she testified about in the morning. We're currently on lunch break. She's going to come back and complete her testimony this afternoon. It started with questions about Tory Lanez. She testified that she knew him only for a short time leading up to this incident. They were friends. She was asked, were you intimate? She said yes. She was asked, were you exclusive? She said quite happily no. Then they asked her about her relationship with Kelsey. She said that she's known Kelsey since freshman year of college. How do you know her? How would you describe the relationship? I found her answer very interesting. She said, I quote, "We did everything together." They asked her, hey, how do you feel about being here today? She was struggling through the testimony. I was a little surprised at her answer. She said, I don't feel good. I can't believe I have to come do this. Not really sounding like a victim to me. She's a strong black woman. That's the image that the jury, I think, would have gotten of her. And I expected her to say something more like, I'm here for justice. I'm here to tell my truth. That man shot me. They asked her about when they left the party and when Tory got there. She had gotten there with a larger group of people. Then later she asked Tory to come. By the time Tory got there, it was a lot fewer people. And then towards the end of the night, they asked her who was left. And she said it was basically just me, Tory, and Kelsey. And then we got in the pool. Then she said that when they were in the pool, her wig started getting loose. It was coming off. She felt uncomfortable, so she wanted to leave. She told Kelsey. Her and Kelsey went to the driver and said, hey, we want to leave. And this brings up the first point of contention where, according to Meg, the driver said, I won't leave without Tory. Now, obviously, Tory's team says Meg said she won't leave without Tory. And then the person actually the defense attorney asked, well, why didn't Tory want to leave? And everybody was waiting for the answer to that question because that's the whole Kylie Jenner angle. Unfortunately, the defense objected. The judge said sustained. She didn't answer the question, why didn't Tory leave? The whole situation in the car. She testified that, hey, look, we all got in the car. I got out and arguments started to break out. Basically, Tory started the argument. I was shocked when she dropped and admitted that this argument started with Tory to Meg, hey, why are you snaking your friend like this? And basically revealing that he had hooked up with both of them, that they had been cheated on by him. And this sort of led into the whole big fight. At one point, she gets out of the car, but then she did get back in because they convinced her to get back in. And then we get to the shooting. And here, there was some shocking stuff. So here's some of the key stuff. One, Meg described that, hey, look, I got out of the car, I looked back over me, and then I saw Tory holding a gun, pointing it at me, and he shot me after he said, dance bitch. But then, this is the prosecution asking the questions, and even in the prosecution asking the questions, she said stuff that makes you scratch your head, which leads you to believe that what's going to happen under cross-examination. The prosecution asked her this, where was Kelsey when Tory was doing the shooting? You know what Meg said? Meg said, I didn't see Kelsey. I only saw Tory. Question, was she in your field of vision? Because I mean, she's right there. Where was she? If you can't answer that question, that doesn't seem like it adds up, especially not in a case where the theory from the other side is that there was a struggle and she was the one who let off the gun. If the victim can't tell you where Kelsey is, that seems highly problematic to me. The other parts of the testimony that were a little bit confusing is they asked her, where was Tory? Was he standing on the car? Was he standing on the ground? And she said, well, he was shooting up over the window, but I don't know if he was standing on something. And they asked her, how tall is he? She said, I think he's like 5'3" or 5'4". He's taller than that, but that's not tall enough to shoot over the window of an Escalade while standing on the ground. And then they asked her, hey, was he on the passenger door, or was he on the front door or the back door? That's what she said. He's on the passenger side. And they were like, all right, well, was it the front door or the back door? She said, I don't. The other part of her testimony that I found a little confusing, it didn't mesh with what the prosecutor said in his opening. The prosecutor said in his opening that Kelsey went to where Meg was, and that after Kelsey went to where Meg was, after Meg had been shot, that Tory was approaching them. Meg's testimony today was different. Meg's testimony was not that she got shot, she went away, and then Kelsey went to where she was, and then no. Meg's testimony is she got shot, she went away, and then she saw Kelsey and Tory both coming to them. Again, does not add up. We finished with, why did you not tell the police the truth? And this was very interesting, whereas typically prosecutors are in the business of supporting police officers. Here, they elicited testimony where Meg said, look, I didn't tell the police the truth because this was around the time George Floyd had been shot, and I thought if I told them the truth, they were going to shoot Tory. I didn't feel safe with the police. And I thought this was kind of weird, but she said it. She said, I'm a member of the black community, and in my community, we don't cooperate. What do I think? I think that the rest of the direct testimony is going to come out. It will be interesting. I think the defense attorney has a lot of room. Hey, what's up, bro? I think the defense attorney has a lot of room to poke holes in the story. And I think the rest of the witnesses are going to say things that the defense attorney is going to have to show that it doesn't, that if Kelsey was right there, how is Meg Thee Stallion going and telling you that when I turned around and I saw Tory shot me, I have no idea where Kelsey was?
Hey, nigga, why you lying on that boy? Is it the truth or a lie?
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Oh my God. When we walked out of that courtroom just now, every single person was shocked. Every single person was frozen. A lot of people were looking at me like, bro, tell me what is going on. Kelsey took the stand before she even started talking. There were fireworks. This started with Kelsey coming in and saying she is invoking her Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and not testify. When someone invokes the Fifth Amendment, they have to be invoking it because if they were to testify, they would be giving testimony that incriminates themselves. She said, I will not testify because I would be giving testimony that I'm incriminating myself. That's what it means when she invoked the Fifth Amendment. Now, the government offered her immunity. They said that we will not prosecute you and use this testimony against you, so please testify. Her lawyer came back and said, well, that's not good enough. I don't want you to just not use her testimony against her. I want you to confirm to me that you will not prosecute her for any crimes arising out of this instance, out of this situation. The prosecutors said, yes, on the record, we will not be charging Kelsey for anything that came out of this incident. And then she testified. I'm going to go over the whole testimony in the next video, but here's the piece that we just left off at lunch. The courtroom is just, I can't even explain the tension. They asked her, at one point, did Tory ever say that I'll shoot you? And she said, I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment right, which suggests, they asked her, what's the context? When did he say I'm going to shoot you? She said, I invoked the Fifth, which suggests that the context was Kelsey was doing something, perhaps Meg was also doing something that would incriminate her. That's the context. That's what I get from it. Bombshell from this morning. Let me catch you up on the rest of Kelsey's testimony. They asked her, how are you feeling? She said, I don't want to be here. They asked her, what's triggering you? She said, quote, lies from Megan. She was asked, what lies? That I betrayed her, that I am a bad friend, that I took hush money. Was asked, how do you feel about the allegation that you shot Megan? She said, that's ridiculous. She was asked, how did you meet Tory Lanez? Me and Meg both met him at the same time at a Rock Nation brunch. She continued that after they met, Meg wanted to hook Tory up with Kelsey, that did happen, that Kelsey and Tory were engaged in an intimate relationship, that Kelsey got COVID, went back to Texas, and during the time she was back at Texas, having left LA, Tory and Meg started getting it on. They talked about the night of the incident. They got to Kylie Jenner's house around 3 to 4 p.m. She was a great witness, by the way. She answered everything extremely knowledgeably, extremely truthfully. I believe every word she said. She never seemed like she was trying to hide something, except when she pled the Fifth, of course. Now, she's clarified this was not a party. Those were just people hanging out. There was maybe 5 or 6 people before Tory got there. There was a lot of alcohol. She said at one point she did pass out. When she woke up, Tory was there. They were all in the pool. They were having fun. She confirmed a lot of the speculation. Tory was hooking up or trying to hook up, flirting with Kylie in the pool. Meg was very agitated, trying to leave with Tory. Tory did not want to leave. She contradicted Meg's testimony. Meg said, oh, I don't remember ever leaving once and then coming back. Kelsey testified they all got in the car. They left without Tory. As they were going, Meg is rambling, being just weird, and then says, oh, I forgot my slipper. Let's go back. They all go back to get her slipper. Then they grab Tory. Kelsey didn't go in at that point when they went back, but when they came out, Meg came out with Tory, and Meg said to Kelsey, bitch, Kylie told us it's time for us to go. Tory drops the bombshell that he had been hooking up with Meg. Kelsey did not know this. The first time she learned this is in that car. That's when the argument ensues. That's when just lots of arguing is going back and forth. The prosecutor really tried to pin it down and make it look like the argument was only between Tory and Meg, and Kelsey was adamant that nah, everybody was arguing with each other. It was a mess. She confirmed that Meg was dissing Tory's career, his skills as an artist. This stuff all crescendoed. The prosecutors asked her about, was there ever a threat made by Tory to shoot? She said yes. Prosecutor asked her, what's the context? She said, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right. You can only invoke your Fifth if the testimony that you are compelled to give will incriminate you, meaning that the context around the threat, if Meg will not tell us, if Kelsey tells us, it would incriminate her.
There was an argument in the car?
It was an argument because I was ready to go and everybody else wasn't ready to go. But that's like normal friend stuff. Like, we fuss about silly stuff all the time. But I never put my hands on anybody. I never raised my voice too loud. Like, this was one of them times where it was like, it shouldn't have got this crazy.
Shouldn't have escalated to
Right.
the way that it did.
So I get out the car and it's like everything happens so fast. And all I hear is this man screaming, he said, dance bitch. And he started shooting. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, he shot a couple of times. And I was so
is he
scared.
in the car shooting from the car, Megan?
He is standing up over the window shooting. And I didn't even want to move. I didn't want to move too quick, like, cause I'm like, oh my God, if I take the wrong step, I don't know if he can shoot something that's like super important. I don't know if he could shoot me and kill me. Like,
were you afraid for your life at that time?
I was really scared cause I had never been shot at before.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
Morning session. We had the doctor testify. The idea that these are not bullet fragments in her foot, that's done. Forget about it. Those are bullet fragments. Every single person on that jury, if you ask me, believes that it was bullet fragments. How did they get there? That's the question. Kelsey took the stand. He was asked by the prosecutors, I don't know what the prosecutors were doing. If you ask me, it was a fumble this morning because they dealt with the witness who was hostile, not answering their questions, saying that she lied to them about all these statements where she incriminated Tory. And then that fumble was picked up on cross-examination. The defense attorney looks like he's on his way to the house. The defense attorney starts with the immunity piece. Okay, you've got immunity. You're only testifying once you got the immunity. Understood. Then the defense attorney goes into this idea that she's been got the immunity. Understood. Then the defense attorney goes into this idea that she's been paid off, and he does a great job of establishing the fact that she never made any statements to prosecutors in all of 2020, all of 2021. This happened in 2020. She only made a statement to prosecutors in September 2022, and the prosecutors are using all this evidence of alleged bribes. That stuff was years ago. So why would she have taken money years ago and then September 2022 not done what she's supposed to do when you take the money, which is lie for Tory? And to be sure, that's like the first 3 minutes across, because then we go into gunshot residue. You knew before you sat down with the police officers and gave your testimony that you had gunshot residue on you. Isn't that correct? She said, yes. Defense attorney came back and he used the prosecution's own questions against them. The prosecution had asked, hey, why'd you lie to us? Kelsey said, pressure. Defense attorney, where was the pressure from? Was it from Tory? Nope. Was it from anyone on Tory's team? Nope. Was it from the defense team? Nope. Was it from the prosecution? Yes. That type of sequence of questioning sits in a person's mind and goes, gee, I'm in a courtroom of law. It certainly seems like one side is winning. A lot more happened this morning. I'm talking about just a lot. The prosecution was straight up planting the seeds because I think there's a juror that they don't like and they're trying to get rid of him. There was an issue about the prosecution springing defense evidence. They're just like, oh, hey, we got this text message. I just found it in my back pocket. I'm going to use it. And the defense attorney was going nuts. Gloves are off at this point. There's a lot of cordiality. There's a lot of decorum. People follow the rules. Nobody acts out. But the attorneys on both sides, now when it comes to like, hey, can we get by with this? Like, no. I'm not okay with that. And, you know, they're saying stuff kind of out of order, out of turn. People are starting to feel that trial pressure. That's how it goes. Nothing is decided. Everything is an open game. You got to be on your P's and Q's when you're taking it to trial.
David, Megan Thee Stallion's former best friend and assistant, Kelsey Harris, took the stand today. When she got there, she was granted immunity. And her testimony seemed to leave prosecutors frustrated because she answered almost every question with, quote, I honestly don't remember. Tory Lanez allegedly shot the Grammy-winning artist Megan Thee Stallion in the foot July of 2020. Harris made it clear today that her memory from that night was blurry because there was a lot of alcohol involved. Back in September, Deputy District Attorney Kathy Taub recorded an interview with Harris recounting the night. A lot of that recording was played in court today to refresh Harris's memory about what happened that night in the Hollywood Hills. Harris describing each part of that night in specific detail. But in court today, Harris said a lot of the things she said in September weren't true, saying, quote, I was protecting myself. Prosecutors showed a text message Harris sent to Megan Thee Stallion security guard the night of the alleged attack that read, quote, help, Tory shot Meg, 911. But today, Harris claimed she doesn't know why she said that, saying she didn't see anything happen. Harris refused to refer to anything that night as a shooting, only that she heard gunshots. When asked if she was shot by Lanez, she issued her Fifth Amendment right. She also said that she did not want to be here today and that it was triggering for her, but she will be back in court tomorrow at 10 a.m.
In the criminal justice system, the people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories.
For the final day of the first week of the Tory Lanez trial, the prosecution is expected to put on witnesses. They're going to play a whole tape of Kelsey's recorded interview with the police. I'm not sure how significant that's going to be. Here are the witnesses who I think will be significant. Now, I expect the prosecution to call the only sort of completely partial outside witness to this incident, and that is the resident of the home near where the gunshots went off. That individual said he heard things. He said he saw the muzzle go off when the woman was near the gun. He said he saw what appeared to be two women fighting. If the prosecution does not call this man as a witness and they leave it to the defense to call him, that tells me a lot that the prosecution is not putting on the truth. They're just putting on an extremely one-sided version of the story. I expect them to call him. The other witness that's very interesting is the police officer, Detective Stogner, the lead investigator in this case. The prosecution is not calling him to testify because they're saying that he's on administrative leave. The defense is saying, wait a second, he's not on administrative leave. First you told me he's getting terminated. Now you're telling me he's on administrative leave. The defense is obviously building the case that this was a shoddy investigation, that we need to know about why this guy's not available, not testifying, why he was either fired or on administrative leave. Who is this guy and what did he do in this case? But let me tell you who I think the most important witness is. Oh no, wait. Why don't you go to my subs where I just did a video, IG subscriptions, telling you exactly who I think the most important witness. Friday morning session in the books. At the Tory Lanez trial, prosecutors played the recording from their interview with Kelsey back in September 2022. A lot of the jurors had heard a lot of that stuff before, but now they heard it on audio played on the courtroom speaker. Kelsey told the story. She gave a lot of details. You know, when you do a direct examination, you maybe don't go over all the details. When you sit down with police and they do your initial interview, they go over every single detail, and every single detail is on the recording. We got a lot of gossipy details, including that Odell Beckham Jr. was there at the party that night. Kylie Jenner at the front had up to 6 security guards checking people. A lot more. You can go my IG subscriptions. I give you all the gossip details. Let's get to the key part of the recording, and that's where Kelsey implicates Tory in the shooting and also makes statements about Tory putting out the idea that Kelsey denies taking any money, but she did acknowledge during the recorded testimony that statements were made to her that she could be paid. This was way back in 2020. As to the shooting, Kelsey said what prosecutors told the jury that she had told them before, which is that Tory was the shooter. They both got out of the car. Tory hopped into the front seat. He pulled a gun. Come to a close. We heard the rest of Kelsey Harris's recorded interview with the district attorney and their investigator. Let me catch you up on everything that went on. 2 ways you can look at this recording. 1, it's her honest account of what happened. She sounds confident. She sounds poised. She's telling you every single thing in sequence. 2, you can look at it as somebody who's giving rehearsed statements to police because she's guilty of crimes and doesn't want to tell the truth, and she's got her lawyers on the line and 2.5 years to prepare, so she spins a nice little story that makes her and Meg look good. I don't know. You be the judge. In her recorded testimony, she tells the whole story of what happened. We go to this gathering at Kylie Jenner's house. Apparently, when you go to a gathering at Kylie Jenner's house, it can be pretty cool. There's lots of security, as many as 6 when you pull up. OBJ is there. It's like a hotel. You get your own room to check into. Quite fan. The whole issue of Kylie and Tory and Meg getting jealous and them trying to pull Meg out, and then they leave and then they come back because Meg said she forgot a slipper, and then Kylie kicks them out, and now we're in the car. Tory's saying stuff like, hey Meg, why don't you tell your friend what's so funny, referring to the fact that Meg backdoored Kelsey by hooking up with Tory, and then they're like getting back at him like, yo, whatever, you this, you're that. She's making fun of his career. You're only relevant because you were on a Jack Harlow feature. He's popping shit like, yo, I'm from Canada. Car, they both get out of the car. She sees Tory hop from the back to the front. He's got a gun and he points it and he shoots at Megan. That's the recorded statement. Does that add up and mesh with everything else? Well, how did the jewelry fall? How did the necklace get on the floor? She says, well, that's Tory physically assaulting me, and that's how all that happened. As far as her and Meg getting into an altercation, no mention to the police on the recorded interview. Was there a police officer or a detective from the LAPD at that interview treating it like she might be a suspect or hostile? Absolutely not. If you ask me, I don't think Tory was the only aggressor putting hands on people. That's what I get, if you ask me, when you look at the very different stories that everybody's telling and the part that the 2 females don't want to talk about. Remember the physical statures of the people involved. The idea that only men can physically assault women is a common misconception and not at all accurate. That's the shooting. Then they all get back in the car. They're driving. It's Kelsey texts my security. She texts the security. That's the text. Tory shot Meg. 911. Is that a real text? Is that a cover? And then the rest was all of the aftermath, that when they get released, that there were indications made to her from Tory's team that they would invest in her business or that they'd be willing to talk to her about giving her money. Whether any of that was a bribe or was taken, Kelsey denied. And then what happened afterwards in terms of her communications with other people post the incident? She said that she basically never has talked to Meg. They had one conversation. Meg and her team were lying to her and saying that, hey, I'm really badly injured. I'm going to be out of commission for probably at least a year. There's nothing for you to do here. You need to get out of LA. And they basically shoot her away and sent her on to Houston, and she hasn't heard from her since. The recording ends with the prosecutors asking that, hey, are you just saying all this to get back into Meg's good graces? And she says, no, I'm saying all this to relieve myself of the burden of this. I just want to move on from it. On cross-examination, the defense highlighted a couple key facts about this interview. One, there was no police presence, nobody investigating or asking Kelsey hard questions. Two, there was no grant of immunity to Kelsey at that time. So if she did have stuff to hide her own criminality, she would not have been immune from making statements, and so she had an incentive to lie. Three, they had asked her during the interview about certain text messages that might be relevant to the investigation, but there was no follow-up. They never went back and said, hey, can we get those text messages? And four, the idea that her lawyers were on the line and that this is rehearsed, prepared testimony that she had a lot of time to get ready for and give. Like I said, ultimately, what do you make of that recording? Well, you're going to listen to all the evidence in this trial. Trial continues next week, and then you're going to make your decision on who's lying, who's telling the truth. How did those bullet fragments get into Meg Thee Stallion's foot? And is Tory Lanez guilty or not guilty? Find out all that and more next week. For exclusive, additional, interesting tidbits, check out the subscription here on the main page. You will see posts about the DNA expert and the ballistics expert who testified today. But you're going to have to wait for that because I got to get some dinner.